Dance spoke after the family applied to the UN to prevent treatment being stopped.
We shouldn't have to go outside our justice system to do the right thing by the citizens in this country. You know, this is a 12-year-old, this is a child. You know, they say about Archie's best interests. I don't believe for 1 minute that Archie's best interest would be to put his parents through what we're being put through. Our little boy wouldn't like that. You know, I think that it needs overlooking, and I'm very grateful to the Health Secretary for obviously doing what he's done. Very grateful.
Sky correspondent Sadia Chowdhury is live outside the Royal London Hospital for us this morning. And Sadia, what are the expectations of how things could unfold once again on this morning as to whether this action will be prevented or not?
It's really difficult to tell because we haven't been in a situation like this before. We've been to the High Court, we've been to the Court of Appeal, we've seen it reach the Supreme Court. So it seemed at one point that all domestic legal options at least had been exhausted. And that's why Archie's family had taken this application on behalf of Archie to the United Nations under the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, saying that he has a right to live despite being disabled, which they say is part of his right to live. And as you mentioned there, the trust saying that his prospects, his prognosis is so bleak that withdrawing treatment is in his best interest. So we'd gone through all of that. It went to the UN. The United Nations responded by putting an injunction on Britain to not withdraw that treatment while it considers its case. Britain, the British government, then got involved yesterday, sent this back to the British courts now for urgent consideration. And it's urgent because the hospital trust, Barts Health NHS Trust, which is treating Archie, has said that it will start to withdraw treatment from 2 p.m. today, and all expectations are is that Archie, because he relies on a mechanical ventilator to breathe, he will die shortly after that he's extubated. Barts Health have told us that they await the outcome of today's decision, but if they don't get an order from the court, they intend to go ahead with that process today. The Court of Appeal at 11 o'clock this morning is going to sit, and it needs to assess and consider where Britain stands in terms of this injunction, whether or not British courts can honour the UN injunction. Of course, Britain is a signatory to this convention, which means it is obliged to listen and abide by it. But if it doesn't, there isn't actually a binding authority to enforce anything, so it could ignore it. We just don't know. It's happening at 11 o'clock today. It's very interesting and very technical. But at the heart of all of this, it's worth remembering that there is a 12-year-old boy, Archie Battersby, who has been on life support for months now, and his family around him utterly devastated. Every time we speak to them, that's what we see.
Sadia, thanks so much for that update. Now, a 22-year-old man has appeared in court in the past few minutes, accused of murdering 9-year-old Lilia Valutite in Lincolnshire. Sky's Fraser Maud is in Lincoln for us and has the latest. Fraser?
Well, this morning, a very brief hearing lasting only 2 or 3 minutes or so. David Skibas, a 22-year-old Lithuanian national, appeared in the dock. He sat with his head bowed prior to the magistrate reading out the order of process, and he stood and spoke only to confirm his name, his date of birth and his address. The magistrate then explained that this was the most serious charge that anybody can face, a charge of murder, and as such it's unable to be dealt with at the Magistrates' Court and needs to be sent to the Crown Court. Now, this case has moved on quite swiftly in terms of the development of the investigation and so on. It appears that it's still moving quite swiftly now through the legal process. Ordinarily would expect a wait of 24 or 48 hours perhaps before someone would appear in between appearing in Magistrates' Court and being sent to Crown Court. Today that's not the case. It's clearly been expedited, and this case will now go before Crown Court at 2 p.m. this afternoon, where we're expecting another short procedural hearing in order to establish name, address, charges and so on, and whether or not any bail will be granted. Lilia was killed on Thursday about 6:20 on Thursday evening. She was stabbed in the street on Fountain Lane, right in the centre of Boston, and the police very quickly opened a murder inquiry. 2 people were arrested on Friday. They were subsequently released with no further action being taken. Then on Saturday, the police released CCTV images of a man that they wanted to talk to in connection with Lilia's death. That prompted a huge response from the public, a very positive response from the public, and within a matter of hours, a 22-year-old man was arrested in the Central Park area of Boston. That man was David Skibas. He's been talking to police since then, helping them with their inquiries, and yesterday evening, police decided that they had enough evidence in order to charge David Skibas. That has led to him appearing in Magistrates' Court here today, and his next appearance will be before a Crown Court, and that will happen here in Lincoln at 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Fraser, thanks so much for that. Now, it's a crucial few days for candidates Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak as Conservative Party members prepare to start voting in their leadership election. Both candidates are outlining big new policy proposals to try and win support. The latest polling suggests that Liz Truss is still very much the frontrunner. Joining me now, our political correspondent, Amanda Akas. And Amanda, outline for us the key factors at play in today and the week ahead.
Yes, indeed. So Rishi Sunak is substantially behind in most of the polls, as you say. So he really needs to do something quite big to win over undecided Tory members. So today he's pledging to cut income tax by a fifth in a bid to recharacterise himself, not the high tax chancellor, as Liz Truss has branded him, but someone who's promising what he says are the biggest tax cuts since the days of Margaret Thatcher. Now, his plan is to cut income tax from 20p in the pound to 16p in the pound by the end of the next Parliament, so that is potentially in 7 years' time and after another general election. But given his position throughout the campaign has been to criticise Liz Truss's £30 billion immediate tax cut pledge as fantasy economics, which would stoke inflation, her team have immediately jumped on this and described it as a flip-flopping U-turn, which won't actually help people with the cost of living crisis at present. Earlier we heard from the Work and Pension Secretary, Therese Coffey, who supports Liz Truss, who told us that the Foreign Secretary's plans to cut £30 billion of taxes will boost the economy now.
The Conservative Party has always been the party that wants to have lower taxes. Right now, though, we've been seeing taxes going up on households and businesses. And this is one of the clear areas between Liz and Rishi in terms of how we boost the economy now. And Liz is very clear and being consistent that by reducing taxes, especially for corporations, we want to unlock their potential as well, instead of removing more money from them. We're at risk of going into recession, and we need to get that growth. And that's where Liz has a different proposal, a different plan.
Now, Rishi Sunak's team argue that he is sticking to his core principles and that his approach is the responsible one by not cutting taxes until inflation is brought under control. He says his policy is fully costed and will be paid for by increased tax receipts as a result of growing economy in future. Now, earlier we spoke to John Glenn, an MP who supports Rishi Sunak, who told us the former Chancellor isn't flip-flopping.
I do understand the presentational challenges of it, but it is complicated. But we can't deny the fact we've spent a lot of money and we've got to pay for it. And I think most people understand that. We've got massive inflationary pressures. So exactly where we'll be in the autumn, I think is very, very difficult to anticipate. And that's why I'm not in favour, and Rishi Sunak's not in favour of an unfunded tax cut with great uncertainty in the economy. I think that's not the best way to move forward. But what he's trying to indicate today with that vision of where he wants to go is recognising the common bonds we have as Conservatives, that we do want to have lower taxes, but we can't have everything at once.
Now, both candidates will be in the southwest campaigning today ahead of hustings later this evening in Exeter. Liz Truss is making pledges designed perhaps to appeal to the farming community in the southwest, talking about cuts to EU red tape and making it easier to bring in overseas workers from abroad. The momentum really is with her. Last night she received the backing from Nadhim Zahawi, the current Chancellor, as well as over the weekend a lot of big names, Tom Tugendhat, Brandon Lewis, Ben Wallace as well. But Tory party members, although they're getting the ballots today, they do have until the 2nd of September to cast their votes, and if they do it online, they can actually change their mind. So Rishi Sunak's team will be hoping they've still got time to turn this around.
Amanda, thanks so much for that. By the way, a reminder, Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss will go head-to-head in a live televised debate here on Sky News. Kay Burley will be hosting the programme on Thursday at 8 p.m. If you'd like to be a member of the live studio audience and be in with a chance of asking a question, then please Scan the QR code, which is coming to your screen any moment now, or visit Sky News' app or website, and you can propose your question and try and be part of the audience there. But either way, make sure to tune in 8 p.m. on Thursday. Some breaking news. Back to the football. And we got a peak audience of 17.4 million people tuning in to the final last night. 17.4 million enjoyed that fabulous victory for England in Euro 2022 against Germany. The previous record was set for watching female football in the UK was the 2019 World Cup semi-final when England lost to the United States, and that was 11.7 million, so comfortably beat that. 17.4 million people tuned in last night, according to figures released by the BBC. You are watching Sky News, and still to come, the latest from Kentucky, where bodies are still being recovered after huge flash floods. We'll be right back.
The battle for number 10 is reaching fever pitch. As the candidates prepare for our TV debate, the ballot papers are being delivered to grassroots Tories right around the country. Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak? Who do they want to be the next Prime Minister? Join me, Kay Burley, as they go head-to-head live on Sky News. That's the battle for number 10, live on Sky News, on our app, online and on our social media channels.
I'm Becky Johnson, a Sky News Midlands correspondent based here in Birmingham. Allegations of exploitation in Leicester's clothing factories aren't new. In fact, it's been an open secret in this city for years. Made for people who want clarity in an uncertain world.
We're getting more and more stabbings, and essentially I think it's more and more younger children.
Here in the diverse industrial heart of England, we hear from people who have real stories to tell.
Parents are going to complain like this.
These protests are being organised primarily by people who aren't parents at the school.
We have to be prepared that patients will die from this illness.
The River Severn is still rising, and people here in Ironbridge have been told it could go up by another metre. We aim to be the best and most trusted place for news.